And Ramona Africa says that that silence gave them a little bit of comfort, a little bit of hope of that thinking everything was over until a bomb was dropped on the house. What's up, everybody? Yo, welcome to the channel. First and foremost, I know time is valuable. Time is precious. So hopefully I don't waste you guys' time with this video. And what I do here on my channel is just that I simply regurgitate stories that I come across via social media, books, news, just however I get it. The core thing about all these stories is that they're interesting. So with that being said, let's just jump into this video. And after this video, if you like this type of content, you like this type of storytelling, then like, comment, subscribe, and, stay tuned. So, on May 13th, 1985, the West Philadelphia Police Department killed, and from the way it looks, murdered 5 children and 6 adults. And no matter how you see this day, this is one of the days where America just chose to bomb its own people, destroying 61 homes in the process. Now, the Black liberation group called MOVE was born in 1972, and this was an era where it was especially dangerous for organizers and activists. Now, the word COINTELPRO comes to mind. Between the 1950s and the 1970s, the FBI had a surveillance program that targeted political dissident groups like the Black Panthers, the Vietnam War protesters, civil rights leaders, Puerto Rican independence activists, feminists, and even socialists. This is fucked up. So let's take Fred Hampton, for example. He was the deputy chair of the Chicago chambers for the Black Panther Party, and he was the national spokesman.
We've got a new state's attorney, you see. And he said already what he thought about people that had different political beliefs than he had. His speeches sound somewhat like those of Hitler, and we know why he wants to see Fred Hampton put in jail. Be a part of the organization of the Black Panther Party. That is the only organization, in fact, that has came out and stood up loud and clear and said that we don't care what anybody says, whether they have guns or not and badges or 18 uniforms. If whenever they step outside the bounds of legality into the bounds of illegality, then we'll blow their brains out if they're bothering the people. And what makes them mad about that? They're constantly bothering the people. Anybody that's out there for the protection of the people happens to be in direct conflict with them.
He was also a progressive who founded the anti-racist, anti-class Rainbow Coalition, which was a multicultural political organization that initially included the Black Panthers, the Young Patriots, which was organized by poor whites, the Young Lords, which was organized by the poor Hispanics, and an alliance with the local street gangs to help end the infighting and work towards a social change. Now, Fred Hampton considered fascism as the greatest threat, saying nothing is more important than stopping it because fascism will soon destroy us all. Now, given the fact that he was only 21 at this time, this was nothing short of amazing, but due to political dissidents, this young man was killed by the police in 1968 as part of a COINTELPRO sting.
We don't think you fight fire with fire, best. We think you fight fire with water, best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight with solidarity. And why? Because they want to keep you to believing that I'm your enemy, and that everybody else that's black and that wears a lot of hair on his head and hair on his face, they want to keep you thinking that he's your enemy. Why? Because if ever you would disregard him and overlook him just for a minute and throw away that question of racism and start into dealing with a little logic, then there would be no one else you could attack.
Sad, isn't it? The founder of MOVE, John Africa, was a Vietnam War vet. He had no problem showing his disdain for the United States government and his deep reverence for the continent of Africa. Now, combined with their Black revolutionary ideas, they fought for environmental and animal rights, as well as this back to nature movement, sort of like a hunter-gatherer society. So, in the eyes of law enforcement, they were simply terrorists just trying to overthrow the government, with close to 30 people, and close to half of that was young children. Now, I'm not going to act like this group was innocent, because they wasn't. They would lead non-violent yet destructive demonstrations when they protested zoos, pet stores, political rallies, the war, and police brutality. Given their chosen lifestyle, they homeschooled their kids, they had a diet of raw food, and they also believed in composting, which just means they use theirs and their pet manure as fertilizer to grow their own crops. They also wore their hair in dreadlocks, and I don't know how old you are, but before the 9-9 in the 2000s, the dreadlocks wasn't a stylish hairdo. I mean, even today in this accept all culture we have in the United States, it's still frowned upon depending on who you are, your race, career, and even black folk would stereotype those with dreadlocks. So could you imagine other groups and other cultures' views? But some members in their community sympathized with their mission, while others just found their lifestyle to be destructive and just plain nasty. So along with successful raids of the group's original Powhatan Village headquarters in the mid-1970s, the police would beat and arrest the MOVE members with impunity. Now, MOVE also accused the cops of killing one of their members, Janine Africa's baby, Life Africa, in March 1976. But when the cops denied the allegations, they just insisted that the kid never existed. So how can they kill something that never existed? So due to that response, the group started to arm themselves with weapons that they got from one of their members who started to work with ATF agents.
The police come in here with their hands, we'll use our hands. If they come in here with clubs, we'll use clubs. But if they come in here shooting and killing our women and children and our men, we will shoot back in defense of our lives.
In 1978, following a 15-month standoff, Mayor Frank Rizzo, notorious for his volatile relationship with black residents and activist groups, ordered the group to be removed from their homes.
In there to drag them out by the backs of their necks.
There will be a confrontation this time. There will be no barricades.
I don't know. It's up to them whether no barricades, Mike. They're going to be taken by force if they resist. No question about that. Children or not.
So as the cops surrounded the home in efforts to get these people out the house, they would use a bulldozer, water cannon, tear gas, and also gunfire.
We are under fire.
Next to the car.
One police officer lay dead. 4 other policemen and 4 firemen were wounded. MOVE claims they never fired a shot.
The officer that was shot and killed was Officer James Ramp, and even though the 9 members of MOVE were arrested and charged for the murder, them and some of the people in the community weren't quite convinced, because there were media outlets and news reports that stated that Officer Ramp had been shot in a downward angle from the back. So if that was correct, it was friendly fire on the cop side. Let's just say this is true. It's all true. Good luck just trying to get the cops to admit that they fucked up. Just good luck. But the MOVE lawyer would try to dispute the killing of Officer Ramp, suggesting friendly fire. But 1970s, it's, black activist group. Nobody was trying to hear that. So nevertheless, the 9 MOVE members was given a sentence of 30 to 100 years for third-degree murder. I could say, as you watch and listen to this video today, all except for 2 of the MOVE members have been freed from prison after being reportedly denied for parole. The 2 other MOVE members died while incarcerated. 4 years after the standoff in 1985, MOVE relocated to a quiet yet predominantly black community on Osag Avenue. It didn't take long for their neighbors to start constantly complaining to the city about the amount of trash around the house, confrontations with the other residents, and they will also claim that the MOVE members would broadcast political message through a bullhorn all night and all day. And after they spent 3 years on Osag Avenue, the mayor at that time, Mayor Wilson Goode, and he was the first African-American mayor of Philadelphia, gave the order to evict them. And the police commissioner, Gregory J. Somber, constructed what he claimed to be a reasonable and tactical plan for extracting these members out of the house, which involved a military-grade explosive. With no care in the world. They didn't care. So On May 13th, the cops started to do door-to-door evacuations for this soon-to-be standoff. Ramona Africa, one of the only 2 survivors that was in the home that day, said that the day went by smooth, and it wasn't until towards the end of the day while she was sitting at home and all of a sudden she heard the police commissioner, Gregory J. Somber, on the bullhorn giving everyone in the house 15 minutes to surrender to America. How patriotic. The MOVE members were reluctant to come out willingly in fear that they would be shot as soon as they were seen. So everyone just took cover the best way they could. Now, after evacuating the surrounding homes, nearly 500 cops showed up to serve these warrants to these people. And they attempted to clear the building or to clear the house using water cannons and tear gas. It was reported that the fire department blasted the house with 1,000 gallons of water per minute for 6 hours. Now, the police did report that it was the MOVE members who shot first, causing them to throw smoke grenades and firing at least 10,000 rounds of ammunition in that house. And Ramona Africa said that it was already hard to breathe and the kids were already soaked and wet due to the water, and the tear gas made it so much worse. Now, they did try to surrender after the cops blew a hole through the neighbor's wall, but instead they were met with gunfire. So they retreated back into the house and went into the basement. But all of a sudden, there was nothing but silence. And Ramona Africa says that that silence gave them a little bit of comfort, a little bit of hope that thinking everything was over, until a bomb was dropped on the house. And this bomb was dropped even though the officials suspected that kids would be in the home. And it was later found that the bomb was illegally acquired from a Philadelphia FBI agent who was following the group. And according to multiple accounts, the police commissioner gave the order to drop the explosive onto a fortified structure on the roof of the house.
Are you positive that you told the mayor that you were going to use explosive charges?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did the mayor seem to you to be paying attention to what you were saying?
Yes, sir.
Did he?
Because he asked me if it was safe.
And it was that explosion that ignited several barrels of gasoline and kick-started the fire that ultimately consumed the entire block. Now, the police commissioner reportedly told the firefighters that was on the scene at that time to just wait to put the fire out, saying, "Let it burn."
Commissioner Sambor said to me something to the effect, "Can we control that fire?" And my response, and I'm a cautious person by nature, I said, "I think we can." He said, "Let's let the bunker burn."
I did tell him, in essence, in communication, I communicated to him that I would like to let the fire burn. The bunker burn.
All the while, the police is still firing shots into this burning house. Ramona Africa said that when they realized that they were actually on fire and the bomb was actually dropped on them, they immediately tried to get out again, but the cops again opened fire and forced them back into the house. And they would try several more times to get out, but they were met with the same action. And it was at that point that they knew that they wouldn't survive this attack.
The house shake. We knew something had happened. It never, ever occurred to me that they had dropped a bomb on us. We felt something, but I didn't know what it was. But, in not too long a period of time, it started getting hot and filling with more and more smoke. And we started hearing crackling of the fire, and the smoke was getting thicker and thicker, and we realized then that the house was on fire.
It was reported that the Philadelphia firefighters waited at least an hour to put this fire out, and that caused 60 other homes to be destroyed, and 250 people were left homeless. Now, like I said, it was only 2 people who survived the bombing. Ramona Africa, who was 29 at the time, and her son, Bertie Africa, who was 13. Both were badly burned, and they still have the scars today. But despite 2 grand jury investigations, and a civil suit in the commission's final report that stated that the bomb was recklessly conceived and hastily approved. But no one was ever criminally charged for this attack, except for Ramona Africa, who immediately went to serve 7 years in prison for rioting, conspiracy charges, and other arrest warrants that they had before the bombing. On March 6, 1986, an independent Philadelphia Special Investigation Commission appointed by Mayor Goode issued a report finding that the police had used grossly negligent tactics in committing an unconscionable act by dropping a bomb on a row of occupied houses.
Sambor says, in fact, they did return the fire. Can you explain?
At a press conference 3 days later, reporters asked about gunshots behind the house.
They did return fire?
First, he claimed his officers fired shots in self-defense at a moved man with a rifle.
Fire was returned. As for the fact as to whether or not we killed anybody, that information is not at this present available to me.
Later in the same press conference,
Let me clear one thing up to the question about the firing in the alley.
About what?
About the return or the alleged return of fire by the stakeout officers against the people in the alley. There was no fire returned by the police officers for fear of hitting the child.
The report also highlighted 2 findings. The first was that the city's admission discounted negotiation as a method to resolving the problem, and any attempt to negotiations was hazardous and uncoordinated. And secondly was that the mayor's failure to call off the operation the day before when he knew or suspected that children would be in the house, and was grossly negligent for just taking that risk and killing those kids. The commission further found that the police would have been unlikely to use similar tactics in a white neighborhood. That's not me, that's the commission. No race baiting here. None of that. But despite the commission's request for a grand jury investigation, no one was prosecuted. And as a result, Mayor Goode was reelected the very next year, in 1987.
City Managing Director Leo Brooks, a former U.S. Army general.
You could, I assume, from your command post, or at least when you went outside, hear gunfire.
Oh, absolutely.
Did it sound to you like automatic gunfire?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you know prior to hearing the automatic gunfire that the police would be in possession of and possibly using automatic weapons?
I knew they would have M16s.
Did you know they'd have 50 caliber weapons present?
I did not.
Okay. Did you know that they'd have an anti-tank gun?
I did not.
Did you know they'd have an M60?
I did not.
In 1996, a federal jury awarded Ramona Africa and the relatives of 2 people that were killed in the bombing a total of $1.5 million in damages in a civil suit judgment. And the jury also found that the Philadelphia officials authorized the excessive force and had violated the MOVE members' 4th Amendment constitutional protections against unreasonable searches and seizures. The New York Times reported that the city of Philadelphia also paid over $27.3 million in legal fees in the cost to rebuilding the homes that were destroyed in the bombing. In addition to that, the MOVE group itself was paid $2.5 million in wrongful death suits brought on behalf of the 5 children that were killed in that home. Now, Ramona Africa, till this day, continues to be the spokesperson for MOVE, and she has also tied that group to the Black Lives Matter movement. So, that's all I got for this video. Hopefully you guys got something from it. You like it. I don't know what you'll like. You hate it. I can understand. With that being said, if you like this type of storytelling, trust me, I got a lot more. I mean, a lot more. Like, comment, subscribe, and till next time, be safe. All that good stuff. Peace.
And the mayor said, I'm looking at the television, that fire is getting hotter. I mean, it's getting larger. Put that fire out. And I said, I just finished talking to the commissioner, told him to put the fire out.
After that order was given to put the fire out, to turn the water on, did you convey that order to anyone else?
Yes, sir.
To whom?
Fire commissioner was still there.
I categorically deny that. I had no knowledge of an order from General Brooks to extinguish that fire.